Welcome back to our vector portrait tutorial part 2. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to tell the difference between highlights, midtones, and shadows, and how to get started with big shapes. So as we're looking at this image of Emilia Clarke, we can immediately notice that there are a lot of areas on her face, clothing, and hair that are really, really light, as well as areas that are very dark. So those would be our shadows and our highlights. Anything in between is pretty much considered a midtone. So as we get further and further into creating this vector portrait, you're going to want to start trying to see these highlights and shadows as individual shapes. It may seem difficult at first, but once you get the hang of it, it'll be a lot easier to really view them as shapes. For this project, keeping the idea of stacking pieces of construction paper on top of each other is going to be really important just to keep in the back of your mind. When you're stacking pieces of construction paper, a lot of the time, a shape underneath another shape will not be fully visible. For instance, with my pen tool, if I made some random shape like this, and then I made another shape on top of it, let's say in another color, like so, you can now see that a little part of this red shape is no longer visible because this blue shape is covering it like that. You want to think of your vector portrait in the same way. So when we're doing the face, the hair is most likely going to cover a good portion of it, so you don't have to be very perfect at the top where her hairline is. I'm going to just delete these for now. We always want to start with the general shape of the face, as well as the neck, and then maybe the shirt and the hair. We want to start with big pieces and then move into small ones. So I'm going to start by tracing the overall shape of her face. I'm going to go ahead and go to my pen tool, and I'm going to zoom in nice and close because I can always move around later. And I'm going to start right over here. Before I do start, I want to just make sure that I don't have a fill and that my border is nice and bright so I can see it pretty well. So I'm going to click the trash can next to the fills tab, and then I'm going to change my border color to a nice bright red, and then maybe bring the stroke weight up to a 5. And now I'm ready to start. I'll go ahead and start right over here just by clicking once and putting my first point down. And then I will continue up her hair. So notice right over here, we have a hairline, and I know I'm going to put hair on top of it. So what I'm going to do is just create a shape cutting straight through the hair so you don't have to be accurate. Because again, I know the hair is going to cover it. I don't want to get too close to the edge either because I can see that there's some skin showing here. So that's the way that I'll draw my hair. And once I see that the hair is no longer covering her face, I'll start getting more precise with my line work. And always remember that you want to close most of your shapes. Make sure you don't just leave it like this and forget about it. You always need to make sure that you are closing your shapes. I actually just left mine off. So a good rule of thumb, if you have any incomplete shapes, what you can do is click them with your arrow tool, go back to your pen tool, and now you'll notice when I hover over one of the endpoints, the symbol next to the pen tool disappears. So now when I click it, it's just going to continue from where I left off, and then I can go ahead and close my shape like so. So now I'm done with the largest shape in this photograph, which is her face. Then I'll move on to her neck and her shirt. Another nice rule of thumb is while you're working, if you have a line that's active like this, meaning you can see all of the points and you can see this blue stroke as well, don't click directly on it. You won't be starting a new shape, you'll actually be adding points to the existing path. And you know that because you'll see a little plus button pop up next to your pen tool when you hover over an active line. So instead, for the neck, I'm going to start right about here and click. And I'll make my way down the neck. Again, I know that her shirt's going to cover most of the bottom of her neck, so I don't have to be precise here at all. I can just do this. And then move up the other side of her neck where it's visible again. And then move up to her face. Notice I am going into her face because again, her face is covering the top part of her neck. So now I don't have to be precise. I can just click right here and then finish the shape of her neck. Just to show you guys exactly what I mean, I'm gonna color it for a moment so you can understand how these shapes overlap. So if I were to color this black and then color this as, let's say, white, notice right now the neck is on top of the face, but if I just move it, if I go to modify, arrange, and then just send backward, notice that the face is now covering that part of the neck that I wasn't very careful on. So you don't have to be careful. You could just save yourself time and get a little shortcut through. I'm going to undo that. The last big shape that I'll do is the shirt, and then I'm going to do the hair towards the very end because that's probably the most difficult part, but we'll just knock out the big shapes in this video. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool. And I'm going to start tracing the outline of her shirt. Notice now I can start here because this line is not active. I can't see any of the points on it. And my pen tool has a little X symbol next to it, meaning I'm starting a new path. So I will start right here. And then as I come to the end of the page, I can just sort of do this and go a little bit outside of it because it's not going to show anyways. And then zoom out and just make one long line to the right. And then back up and then zoom back in and continue. Looks like it gets really wrinkly right here, so I might zoom in even closer. And then it would make sense for it to go all the way to the neck and then just come back down. So now I have the shirt, the neck, and the face done. In the next video, I'll show you guys how to get into the smaller details like the mouth, the nose, the midtones, highlights, and the eyes and eyebrows.